Hey guys, Pretty Alice here. I'm going to be talking about Samhain, some facts about the holiday, some of my traditions, and some different things people used to do back in the day. I'm going to be looking down at my notes because I have a horrible, horrible memory. Let's see. So, Samhain means summer's end. That's, what the word is translated to. And it's celebrated on October 31st, although the actual cross-quarter day is somewhere around November 6th to 7th. It's known as the Witches' New Year, which I'm sure, we as witches and pagans probably already knew. Okay, sorry, give me a minute. Sorry, my mother's cat was begging at the door. So what was I saying? It's the final harvest, the harvest of meats generally. But there are, of course, vegetables and other things harvested. So the spirits walk among the living because the veil is very thin. So communicating with the ancestors and the spirits is easier this time of year, and on Beltane as well. It's a time to honor the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, acknowledging death as a part of life. It's a good time to work with the fairies, the good folk, the fae, whatever you prefer to call them. Sorry, I hate it. I hate saying all the time. Samhain and winter it's a good time for introspection. It's a time of the year for reflecting inward instead of without. Connecting with your inner self rather than with other people. Okay, sorry. Animals were brought down and slaughtered, and the meat was stored for winter. If the people felt the animals were strong enough to make it through the winter, then they kept them alive. And if they felt they had enough food to share, to keep the animals alive, they would choose which ones they could keep alive. They stored what food they could, and then what food they couldn't, what was like perishables, they would make into a great feast. So, like I said, because the veil is thin, the fairies are very active this time of year. What people used to believe is that, and I don't know, maybe some people still believe this, is that everything in the fields had to be harvested because the fairies would blight them, and anything left in the fields would be destroyed by the fairies. So there were lots of fires going during this time to cook all the food, the meats, the vegetables, all the things to dehydrate the foods. They needed to dehydrate the different meats and everything. To bake the breads and everything they were making for ceremonial use as well, of course, and I'm sure to keep warm just because the days are getting colder and the nights as well. So people would dress in costume to make the spirits feel more welcome, as well as to protect themselves from the spirits, because if the spirits thought they were spirits as well, they, would feel no need to harm them. So the people in the costumes would go door to door and perform and sing, dance in exchange for soul cakes and cider and just food in general. And this was called mumming, and this turned into modern day trick-or-treating. So, because the veil is so thin, which I know I've mentioned several times, divination is easier this time of year. And one thing people used to do is they would take an apple and they would take the peel off all in one piece, and then they would toss it over their shoulder, and whatever the peel landed, whatever letter it looked like, was the initial of the first initial of the name of their true love or the person they were going to marry. So if it was an S, it would be Stephen or something like that. And I think it was generally the ladies that did this. I don't know that the men did it, but maybe they did. It just seems more like something that the ladies would do. I've done this myself when I was young. When I was like 10, I did this once. And so this is actually where apple bobbing comes from, which I know seems pretty different from peeling an apple and throwing it over your shoulder, but things evolve. So different types of divination you can do this time of year are tarot, scrying, runes, the pendulum, all different kinds of things. Jack-o'-lanterns were originally made from turnips, beets, other root vegetables. And the purpose of them was to help guide the wandering spirits. It was like the light was there, and the spirits and ancestors would see that and help guide them home. So, also, if a loved one had died within the last year, since the last Samhain, they would put a candle in the window of their home, and then they would leave to guide them home, like with the jack-o'-lanterns. And then they would leave the doors and windows unlocked so that when the spirit got to the home, they could enter easily. And they would be welcome into the home. So originally, there was this thing called the Feast of the Dead, and it was celebrated by leaving food and offerings, cider, soul cakes, all different things like this on altars and doorsteps. And this is now what we call our dumb supper, which is, different. That's where we have the supper, and it's had in silence, and you leave a plate out for your ancestors and people who've passed away. Ember Honeyraven actually just did a great video on the dumb supper if you'd like to watch that one. I'm not going to go into dumb suppers a whole lot. So the gods are believed to be closer to Earth during Samhain and Beltane as well. It's a great time to petition them with prayers, ask for blessings or things you're needing, and to make sacrifices for special favors or whatever. So people used to, because there were so many fires going and everything, people would throw tokens of things they wished for, as well as offerings and animal bones that they weren't going to use, into the fire. They tried to use everything, all parts of the animal, but any parts that they didn't use, little bones and stuff that they weren't able to use, they would throw into the fire as offerings. I've personally done this, not with bones, but with little pieces of wood chips. We did this at camp one year when I was, I don't know, probably 12. And we all took little round, like you would make runes out of, basically, little round discs. And we wrote our wish on them, and they passed around pencils and Sharpies, and you just wrote your wish on it. And then we all tossed them into the fire as we walked by in a line and tossed them in. It was pretty cool. It was a Christian camp, and so at the time I was secretly pagan, and and my parents sent me to this camp, and I felt like I'm doing a spell, and so is everyone else, and they don't even know it. It was pretty cool. One thing I want to mention about that is you probably shouldn't, if you're going to do that, you probably shouldn't throw paper into a big bonfire, because ash and embers can come flying out, and they could catch your hair or your clothes or just dry foliage in general on fire. So really only wood is meant to go in big fires like that. If you want to do it in a small cauldron, that's cool to do with paper, but a big bonfire, I'd stick with wood just to be safe. Okay. So some crystals that are good for this time of year. Pretty much all black stones. Onyx, jet, black obsidian, black tourmaline. They're all pretty much protective stones. Black obsidian is protective, and it's associated with guardian spirits. Amethyst is a good one for psychic powers. Clear quartz, you can program it, and it's good for amplifying other crystals. Smoky quartz, crystal skulls. I've never had a crystal skull myself, but all the ones I see, they're always shaped like more like monkey skulls, I think, instead of the ones that are shaped like people skulls. You know, if you know what I mean. Carnelian, I've heard is good for the Fae, but that's not verified. I don't know if that's right or not. Okay, this one I always have trouble pronouncing. Labradorite is good for communication with higher beings. Okay, some herbs. Cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, all kinds of those like fall, wintry type herbs. Those are good. Apples are really good. Those are associated with the dead, and so those are great. Mugwort, patchouli, frankincense, myrrh, sandalwood, and I've heard mint as well. Okay, so some of my traditions that I like to do every year. I like to carve the jack-o'-lanterns. Sometimes I do the kind with faces on them. Sometimes I do different designs. This year I'm going to do a design rather than a face. When I do the faces, I try to make them more interesting than just like triangle eyes and the smiling mouth or whatever. I like to set up my altar. I like to, this is the second year I'm doing candles where I do, I'm just doing little chime candles because that's all I really have room for on my altar. But one is for all the witches and pagans who have passed in the past, and one is for all the ones that will come in the future. And I love doing crafts. At the end of the video, I'm going to show you pictures of my ancestor box and talk about that a little bit that I'm making this year. But if you saw my altar tour video, I have a little skull, plastic skull on there that I decoupaged that I did last year. So I like to do at least a small ritual. I've never done like a big, huge, well, I've obviously never done like a ritual with other people. Well, no, that's not true. I've done a ritual with one other person, but never with a big coven. And I like to make New Year's resolutions. I like to incorporate a bit of the Day of the Dead things in here, like the honoring of the ancestors, which I know is part of Samhain, but I like the imagery of the Day of the Dead, the leaving out of the imagery as in the sugar skulls, and I tried to make that skull that's on my altar look a little bit like a sugar skull. It's got that same kind of look with the tissue paper I chose that I decoupaged on it. I like to leave out food. I'm making soul cakes this year. I'm going to actually do that on Samhain, on the 31st. A couple things I'd like to do is I'd like to have a dumb supper, but I'm not going to be able to do that this year. I'm going to try to do it next year. And I'd like to carve turnips. Most people, when they think of turnips, they think of those purple turnips. I'd like to do the yellow ones. The purple ones, I don't think that would be hard to carve. I'd like to do the yellow ones, sometimes called rutabagas. You just kind of carve out the bottom and then make a face. You don't like carve out the whole thing like you would a pumpkin. You just carve out just enough to put a little LED tea light in there. And then you carve a face just enough to get it to the center. And you literally carve out just the center. You don't have to carve out all the way to the walls like you would a big pumpkin. You carve out just a little tube-like area in the center. And then you would carve the eyes and the mouth all the way in to the center. And I saw a video on someone's channel recently doing that, and I just thought That is so cool. I'm so doing that. It's a little late in the year. I mean, like Samhain's. I mean, I could technically go get one and do it. It's not like today's Samhain or anything. Or Samhain's already passed or anything. But, anyway, I'm rambling. So, yeah, those are mine. I'm going to show you a little bit of my ancestor box now. And I'm going to make another video on that because I'm still in the process of making my ancestor box. It's not finished. But I'll show you a little bit of it now. Okay, thank you for watching. Here's my ancestor box. It's, you know, yay big. Sorry, I've got that hair tie on my hand. It's yay big. Kind of shaped like a treasure chest, but not real curved at the top. I painted the inside red. I associate apples very strongly with the dead, and so the color red really is really strongly associated for me. So I decided to paint the inside red, but I wanted to paint the outside black because it's strongly associated with protection for me, and yeah, so I wanted it to be nice, and I just used some acrylic paints, like the kind you would use on a canvas, not those little, well, they're not that small, but not the little whatevers. I'll show you a picture of them. I mixed the color I used in here between a burgundy and a regular red. I mixed that myself to get this color. But I'm sure you could buy whatever, you know, the color. And then after the colors were dry, I put this on there. This decoupage glue sealer gloss finish. And I still need to do another couple layers because it's nice on the inside, but on the outside I'm not quite happy with how it is up here. And like this is the one I used, the burgundy that I mixed with the red. But the red one doesn't look like this, it's different. I'll show you a picture in just a second. Okay guys, I hope you liked the video. Please comment, rate, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And come back when I make my ancestor box video. I think I'll probably be doing that probably tomorrow. And I'll be making a video of me carving my pumpkin as well. So I hope you enjoyed.